And welcome to Making Remote Work. My name is Jordan Loftus, and today I have the pleasure of being joined by Thana, the founder of Gramercy Consulting. She's a coach to top leaders in a variety of industries. She's an adjunct professor. And Jenny Kelly, who is a business support specialist. You two have been working together for 3 years, fully remote, and this is the year of remote. So I'm so excited to have you on and be able to pick your brains. But Thana, if I could start with you,
Sure.
Give us a little context of how did you start Gramercy, and where were you as a business when you needed help from Jenny and it was time to scale up and do some of those things?
Sure. Yeah, so as a business, as you just talked about earlier, I'm an executive coach. So I work with leaders across different organizations, Fortune 100, 500, smaller startup businesses. But the leaders I work with are either in the C-suite or they're on track to get there. So I'm working with pretty high-level executives. My business incorporated a little over 6 years ago. So I was 3 years in at the time that I met Jenny. I had the benefit of working with an executive assistant here in Atlanta, where I am, that I found through my neighborhood blog early on. And she was great. I worked with her for several years, but she left to pursue a different career. And so I was left with, oh my gosh, how am I going to handle this? Now, just to share a lot of my work, because I have multiple clients at the same time, a big part of my job is ensuring that my schedule is able to meet their needs. And so, having an assistant that can help me, an executive assistant, really be able to be the face of my company to these executives and to their executive assistants. But to do what I told Jenny in the very beginning, calendar gymnastics, because my schedule changes, their schedule changes. They have to feel like I'm accessible for them. And so the scheduling is really important. A lot of people who are executive coaches do their own scheduling. And I learned early on in my business that my time, first of all, I'm not nearly as detail oriented as Jenny, so she does it much better than I do. But also my time was spent, so much time spending, doing all of that work when I could be meeting with clients. So that was the need for me to get somebody to support me in that area.
And I had big shoes to fill because Thana's on-site assistant that moved on, she did a really good job for Thana, and so I knew eyes wide open that I was replacing someone that it wasn't by Thana's choice. So that's one obstacle that you have to face and deal with. But I think that when I started working for Thana, I had already been with Boldly for 2 years. And so I did have a sense of comfort.
There's a lot of really great folks out there that can provide support to executives, but you have to lay everything out, But Jenny has always been somebody who anticipates the needs. Like, so if Jenny comes to me and she's like, do you think we should schedule a meeting with John for a week after you meet with him? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. Absolutely, go for it. So she's always thinking ahead, and that really helps. She thinks, right? She doesn't just, get the scheduling done. She's thinking about impacts, and that's a notable moment every time it happens. Part of it also, I'm a caretaker to an elderly parent who has dementia. And I mean, at one point I was so overwhelmed between the business and taking care of an older parent remotely. Another remote thing I do. I was like, Jenny, we need to move my mom out of her apartment. Can you call these assisted living places? I keep trying to do it and I can't get to calling all of them, and I need all the information. And she was like on it and gave me this report. And I mean, I probably don't even leverage Jenny as much as I should really, but that's another notable moment. There are times when, caretaking has really taken its toll this past couple of years, and but I don't want to miss a beat with the business. And so just knowing that Jenny is my rock. I mean, she really just keeps it going. She makes sure I don't drop the ball with the client. She's really good.
Do you find that there's been any kind of loss of quality in transitioning from the in-person medium to the Zoom medium, or is it just different? How do you think of like the value that you can bring?
I would say that if you had asked me before COVID how I would answer that question, it would have been very different than what I'm about to tell you. I would say that there's been no degradation to the impact of coaching in a virtual world versus if I'm sitting in their office.
There's a lot of innovation happening around making remote work. And so this is the final question. of the show for both of you. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What's your best advice for executives and new team members to work productively and remotely together?
The first is that I've worked for clients before, and sometimes it's really hard for them to let go of the control, so to speak. With Thana, I have full permissions for her calendar, and she trusts me to make decisions. I'm a reflection of Gramercy Consulting. I'm a reflection of Boldly, and I always want to represent in the best light possible. I can't do that if I have one hand tied behind my back where she's shooting out calendar invites, and I was just working on that. And so she really took her hands off the steering wheel. She said, you own my calendar, and she trusted me to get it done. And I will tell you that that has been the single most successful aspect of our relationship, is that she just gave me the freedom to take care of her and scheduling. And then the other part is that I think by nature I'm a fixer. I want to fix problems. I want to make everything better, and I don't want the client to feel any discomfort. But I trust Thana, and I respect Thana so much that if I find myself in a unique situation with scheduling, or maybe there's an executive assistant that I'm having a hard time reaching, we'll go to Thana. Here's what I've done. What would you suggest? Please advise. And so, yes, I do try to fix it, but there are times when I have to be honest with myself and say it's best because Thana has the big picture on this. You may not understand all of the dynamics of this relationship, so just let her know what's going on, and then she weighs in very quickly, and then I have the football and I run with it. So I think that having the calendar permissions and the freedom to do what I need to do, and then also realizing when I can't fix it, I need to turn to Thana and ask for her guidance.
And I would say, I can talk about what it's like for an executive to work with an executive assistant remotely. I mean, we have a lot of tips for that. We could probably put a blog together because we do so many things. There's so many little tips that we've taught each other that make it work so well. And I think, as Jenny said in the beginning, communication is probably the biggest key. And if I feel like we go dark for a while, because we're so good at doing the work now that we hardly ever have to talk to each other live, and then I feel remiss, like, can we get on a Zoom call? I miss you. Like, we need to otherwise we could go for 2 months and not even have a voice conversation, right? It's all email. And,
right.
And so sometimes we have to make the time to ensure that we're connecting through video. And I think that applies to teams as well, right? And I work with a lot of leaders who are trying to lead virtual teams. And I think it's important to not get so used to not having that in-person connectedness. I think the other thing that happened when Jenny started is because I had worked with another executive assistant for a while, and we got into certain themes and paths, I was able to, but I did this for her as well. I think it's really important to take the time to help somebody understand how to manage your calendar, right? So I didn't just say to Jenny, it's all yours, take it, do whatever you want. I said, I don't do client meetings after 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Fridays because my clients are spent. It's not a good time to meet with them. I don't do meetings. I'll do X number of meetings a day. I'll do X number of meetings back to back before that's too much. Like, I kind of gave her the guidelines, which I don't think a lot of leaders do. They just expect the person that works for them to help to know, right, how to do all that. So I think it just comes down to communication and being visual.
This was so helpful. That's absolutely how you make remote work. You nailed it, and I really appreciate you being on, Thana and Jenny. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jordan.
All right, stay safe. Have an awesome day.
Bye.